Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting with me, Annie. I hope you're all doing well today. Here in Surrey it's been absolutely tipping it down with rain until about 3 PM, so I've taken the opportunity when there's a little bit more daylight to record this podcast episode. I've changed locations today. I'm now in my spare room / craft room, so I've got a lovely display of yarn behind me, but yeah, I just thought I'd move around the house a little bit to show you where I live. However, let's get started with what I'm going to talk about this week. So welcome to my little corner of crafting. Today I am wearing my Jupiter crop, which I mentioned in the last episode. And this one is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. It is knit out of Durarium Natura Ulysse. In several colours. So the Tempête colour is the dark blue, Confiture de Rose is the pink, Ciel is the light blue, Quartz is the kind of light pink colour, and Cell is the white colour. And this was one of my lockdown knitting projects from kind of March to May time. And I really loved knitting this sweater. I'll stand up or get up a little bit so that you can see a bit more. Let's do this again. There you go. So it is a cropped sweater, so I would normally wear this with a dress rather than with jeans like I've got now, but I wanted to wear it for the episode this week because I mentioned it last time. So there we go. That's what I'm wearing. Moving on to knitting, so I showed my throwback cardigan at the point that it was last week, but I've actually managed to progress really well. So let me show you where I am with that. Now, throwback is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I've knit it in West Yorkshire Spinners, Croft Shetland colours and Shetland tweed. So let me hold up I've got so far. It does clash a bit with the Jupiter crop, I have to say, but never mind. So this is the yoke, and that's what I just finished last time I was podcasting, and I've gone all the way down the body. So I just bound off the bottom of the body this morning, which means that my next step is to do the sleeves and then finally do a bit of the collar. Yeah, I'm so pleased with this. I'm hoping that it will grow a little bit when I've blocked it, but we'll see. Yeah, just to go through the colours again like I did last time. So the red is the Belmont colour, then we've got Melby, Feltar and Eswick as the kind of mottled green and blue colour at the top there. I do really love the way that this has turned out so far. So I'm hoping it will fit okay when it's finished. It's a little bit harder to tell with a cardigan rather than a jumper how well it's going to fit, especially because the collar's currently quite wide at the moment, so it's quite low relative. You can kind of tell relative to the Jupiter crop that currently it's probably sitting about here on my shoulders. But we'll see. I'm optimistic. I think I've chosen the right size. But sometimes you never know until you've actually finished the project how well it's going to fit. But fingers crossed, all will be good, and that will be that. Hopefully I'll have finished it by the time my next podcast, which will be great. Next thing that I am knitting at the moment is a shawl. And you'll be pleased to know that it's not the shawl that I showed last time, so I've cast another one on. And it'll be hard to show you what this shawl will end up looking like, so I'll pop a picture here just to show how it should end up looking when it's finished. But this is the lighter shawl by Simone Carit. I think I've pronounced that right. If not, the spelling is in the down bar. And I am knitting it out of Primrose Yarn Co. And this is the Rose Sport. It's 3-ply sport weight, 100% superwash merino, and about 325 yards, and I am knitting it in the Sassy Pants colour. So that is this gorgeous like birthday cake, pink and blues, which, yeah, kind of similar to my top actually. I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, brighter, but it will look amazing. And the other colour or other yarn that I'm using is Madeline Tosh Work Sock in the Arctic colourway, and this one's 75% merino and 25% nylon, but it basically feels like 100% merino as far as I'm concerned, and that is this gorgeous blue. And yeah, pairing those together I hope will work incredibly well. The lighter is a brioche shawl, and I learned a bit of brioche earlier this year, again as part of the lockdown started. I thought, oh no, I'm gonna learn a new skill. So there we go. I'm not very far on this unfortunately, so I've just got a bit of a sliver, but so far I'm really liking the way that the colours are playing together, and I'm hoping the brioche section will be fairly straightforward. I'm, like I said, not very experienced at brioche knitting, but I think I've got the hang of it so far. Certainly between sort of having tried kind of straight brioche rib and then decreases and increases over the summer, I think I've got the hang of it enough to be doing this project, so I'm looking forward to having it done. But also the process, because I actually found that despite the fact that brioche is considered to be quite a difficult skill within knitting, once you know how the stitches work, it actually flows incredibly well, and it almost becomes relatively mindless until you have to do increases and decreases, which then make it a bit more complicated. So I definitely recommend, if anyone wants to try brioche at the moment, just go for it. Don't be worried about having a go because you think it's too difficult. It's not. It's just going through the process, kind of reading what you need to, working out what each stitch needs to do, and then once you know it, it will fly basically. So don't be discouraged. I am keeping this project in one of my Clara Rose bags, which I believe I also showed last time. So Clara Rose Crafts on Etsy is one of my favourite bag makers, and this is one of the Marauders Maps ones that she made. It's, I think, the medium size, so it's not huge, but you can fit quite kind of a reasonably sized jumper in it, to be honest. And yeah, it opens up quite nicely. And this one is definitely my favourite because it has lovely handles, so you can kind of carry it on your wrist, which is great. And I will link to her shop in the down bar as well. So that is the second thing that I'm working on at the moment. And then the third one is also something that I am going to have to insert a picture of here, because I haven't got very far and it doesn't look like very much. But this is a project called Sheep by Susan B. Anderson, and a couple of my friends bought me some knitting patterns for my birthday, and one of them was that one. So in the pattern you get 3 different types of sheep, but I have decided to knit the curly sheep, which is surprisingly fiddly, I would say, but this is where I am, so not very far. I've got the bottom of the sheep and then a couple of rows of the curly bits. And I am knitting my sheep on 2.5mm ChiaoGoo DPN. I don't have a great idea of what size this is going to end up as when it's done, but I think it doesn't really matter with a plush, does it? So you can quite easily just go with it, which is good. I went down, I think, from 3mm needles, which was suggested in the pattern, because I knit very loosely. And the yarn I'm using, surprise surprise, is Derrière Nature Ulysse in the Poivre et Sel colourway, and that's just kind of a mottled browny grey, I would say. It's really nice colour for a little sheep. And so I had some leftovers of that from another project, and I thought, you know what, I'll just knit a sheep out of the rest. It's always good to have a little project like that. I've made quite a few gnomes in the past by Sarah Shearer that I've enjoyed quite a lot, just as a little thing in between other projects where it's not a mammoth project, but you've got kind of a bit of a palette cleanser, I would say. And that's it with what I'm knitting currently, but I've got some other things to show you. So let's show you what I've finished. You will be pleased to see that I have completed my Festival of Stitches shawl by Lisa Hannes, and I'll show it bit by bit like I did before. So that's one end, then you've got little drops of water, then cabled section, then the section of slip stitch colour work, some lace, which actually came out really well after blocking, because you can see the kind of 4 dots, stripes for the centre, and it has ended up being huge, with the bobbles in between as well, and then another section of lace, another section of slip stitches, the opposite cables, which, like I said last time, I love this yarn in the cable section, it looks amazing. Some little droplets again, and then the rib at the end. So it's huge. It's, I would say, maybe double my wingspan, or maybe 1.5 times my wingspan probably, but really lovely shawl. I'm super happy with it. I'll definitely be wearing it at Christmas. The final touch is this little tassel that I made with a tassel maker. And I've not used a tassel maker before, but I definitely recommend it because it makes a really nice, neat and tidy pom-pom. So that can kind of dangle about off there. I really like that final touch just on that one stitch that Lisa's put on, and I think a couple of people have done like triple colour tassels which look amazing. I'm not sure how they were done, I'd have to look it up in detail. I've gone for just a single colour one, but yeah, I really like it. Cool. So that's one finished object this week. I have more than one. So my other one is actually something I didn't show in the podcast last time, but I've spoken a bit about trying to knit brioche earlier this summer. So I started off with a really plain brioche knit, but essentially I adapted a hat pattern that was just basic brioche rib into a cowl. But that worked well as kind of a beginner point. The next thing I did was I grabbed some leftover yarn, and I thought that seemed to work quite well, so let's try a hat pattern that has an increase and decrease effect with brioche. And I thought I would have enough yarn for a hat, but I didn't, so I had to do the same thing, which is make effectively a cowl. So this is my cowl, and it's got this lovely kind of, I suppose, flowery brioche effect, and it's reversible because it's brioche, which is lovely. So I can either wear it on the pink side out or with the grey side out. I'll just stick it over my head and try not to destroy my hair. You kind of get the idea. It works actually really well as a cowl. It seems quite short, but because the brioche is quite thick, it stays well and it feels very warm because you've got that double layer of fabric. So yeah, I just finished it off, and I think I will probably use it this winter, just to kind of keep as a bit of a neck warmer. But it was certainly really great to practice that technique on as well. Doesn't that look cool? I'm so happy that I've been able to kind of get the hang of it. It's really exciting. So There we go. Oh, I forgot to say what the yarn for my shawl was, so apologies for that. Let's go through. So this colour is Mr. B's Hiddleston in the Tannery colourway. This one is also Mr. B's Hiddleston in the Stella Bella colourway, and I can tell you that the Hiddleston base is 75% Superwash Merino, 25% nylon, and it's 425 meters for 100 grams. The other one is Prolana Avellino, and I can't remember what the colourway is, but it's a red in the notes anyway, so that you can reference it. Definitely a yarn that I enjoyed using a lot, although the yardage wasn't as much as the other ones, so it's a bit plumper, which I think means that per 100 grams you get fewer yards, so I had to kind of shorten the shawl a bit because of that. But in the pattern, actually, Lisa really helps you to work out exactly how much yarn you're going to need for each section, and gives you a good guide on how to kind of plan ahead in case you haven't got quite enough for the size that she made. So mine is a bit smaller. So the yarn that I used for my little test cowl here is Malabrigo Rios for the pink in the Hollyhock colourway, which is a colour I absolutely adore. Again, you can tell what types of things, colours I really like from what I'm wearing at the moment as well. So yeah, Hollyhock in Malabrigo Rios, and Silver Fox, I think, for a Madeline Tosh DK. That's all the knitting that I've got today, but I will go on to weaving next. Right, so on to weaving. So I have actually done quite a bit of weaving in the last 2 weeks, and this is because I have a very specific plan for Christmas presents. So I hope no one who's going to be getting any of these is watching this at the moment, but basically what I'd like to do is make some zipper bags out of woven fabric. I found a pattern by Can Do Patterns on Etsy, which is the zipper pouch pattern, and I'm hoping what I can do is sew kind of my woven fabric into the shape of this pouch, and stick a zipper in and some lining and interfacing, and hopefully it will look really lovely. So what I've started to do is just weave sections of fabric to be able to then use for a pouch. The first one is this lovely houndstooth. So houndstooth is surprisingly easy to weave when you first try weaving, because all it is essentially just a stripe, but because it's woven and the way that the fibres overlap, you get this kind of cool houndstooth star pattern. So it's just 2 strands of pink, 2 strands of white as the warp, and then the same for the weft, so when you're actually weaving. And this fabric isn't huge, so it's not quite scarf length, if you see, there you go, but it should be a really good amount to make quite a big pouch from the pattern. And this is out of, surprise surprise, Terrarium Natura Ulysse in the Confiture de Rose colourway, so same as my Jupiter crop, and a Shopper Wool Admiral Starker 6 in white as the contrast colour. So this fabric will be absolutely beautiful, hopefully, for a member of my family. We'll see. I might be able to make 2 good size bags, I think, actually, because there's quite a lot there. That's it doubled over, but I hope I manage it. I've now got a walking foot for my sewing machine to make it a bit easier to weave with sew with woven fabric. So that's number one, that's the pink and white houndstooth. Something else I wanted to try for a while is to do a stripy warp, but a kind of plain coloured weft, because I've done the opposite way round before where I've done something stripy. But yeah, this has been the effect. So this is a Shopel Wool Zauberwool Starkist 6 in the jacket and trousers colour, and that was what I used for the warp, and you can see how gorgeous is that. And it's really interesting because the striping looks very defined, despite the fact that it was the warp rather than the weave. And the other yarn I've used is my absolute favourite, Durerum Natura Ulysse in the Plume colourway, so it's kind of a turquoise colour. And one of the things that I actually did was I started off with just a bit of white instead of going straight into the blue, just because I wanted to see how different it looked, I suppose. And you can tell it, like, the white weave really mutes the stripes, whereas the blue really kind of highlights the colour a bit more, I think. I don't know, but yeah, it was a really interesting experiment anyway, really great. So that is another fabric for my bag making, and yeah, I really enjoyed making that. And both of these bits of fabric, I think I started a week and a half ago, and they were off within a couple of days basically. So you can see how quick weaving actually is relative to knitting, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to try it in the first place. I've got this lovely fabric to do the lining, so this is like a twill, just a kind of creamy grey, and I hope that will work really well just in the insides of the bags, but we'll see. I've got some zips on the way as well, something I didn't really have a stash of, zips. So I'm not especially experienced at sewing bags, but I've done a few, 3 or 4, so I hope nothing will go wrong with my lovely woven fabric, but we'll see. Quickly on to acquisitions already. Now, it was my birthday on the 10th of October, and I think the day before I saw that lovely Tracy of Nora George Yarns had posted that she had a few advent calendars left, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this as a Christmas present, or birthday present and Christmas present to myself, because I've not had a hand dyed advent calendar before, and hers was Secret Garden themed, and Secret Garden is one of those films that as a child I would watch over and over again. On video it probably would have been. So yeah, this arrived in the post the other day, and I just want to show you the outside. So this is probably something that I will try and vlog as I open. So there's not much to see yet, but I'm super excited to start opening this on the 1st of December. I have to keep myself contained until then. So just to show, so on the front you've got this lovely note which details everything that's inside, so I'm not actually going to look at it yet. And then the extras as well, so I'm really intrigued to see exactly what's in here, and I was so impressed by what she's actually done, so I will show you. Ta-da! It's actually an advent calendar. So I've seen hand-dyed advent calendars before, and in the past I feel like the impression I got was that it would just be individually wrapped parcels, but actually having it with the doors that you can open and everything is great, and it makes me doubly excited to open number 1. on the 1st of December. But I really think it's going to be something nice to look forward to, especially because there's rumours now that in the UK we're going to have lockdown again soon, and I don't know, the world feels a bit miserable at the moment, so something nice like this to look forward to for every day of December. It's going to be great, and then we'll see what happens at Christmas, but I hope we can spend it with some of our family at least. So other acquisitions this week, and I've spent a little bit of money, let's say. Basically I've got some plans for specific things I want to knit, so I ordered a little bit of extra yarn to do that, and some of that yarn is, I don't know, I'm so predictable, aren't I? So this is Durarium Naturel Ulysse in the Baleine Bleu colourway. So this is going to be for a cowl that I will be knitting, that I will talk about in a bit. So I've ordered those from Great British Yarns, which is a UK based online website, yarn store, I guess. Like I said, it is probably my favourite yarn to weave with, let alone knit with too. So I've been ordering quite a bit of this, particularly because you go through yarn quite fast when you're weaving scarves and things. And it is a sport weight yarn, 185 meters for 50 grams, and these are 50 gram balls of yarn, and it's organic merino from France, so it's really lovely and soft, but also organically grown on sheep, which is great. And I won't read you the French because it probably won't make sense to a lot of you, so we'll see. I'll see if I can translate it actually in the down bar for you. The other thing that I saw that Great British Yarns had is Knit Picks palette, and palette is kind of a yarn that we find really hard to get in the UK, or Knit Picks in general actually is really hard to get in the UK. So I was interested to try it because I've heard a lot of good things about it, that it's affordable but really, really nice yarn, and I can certainly feel that from holding this up. It's really soft. This colour is Marble Heather. It's 231 yards for 50 grams and it's fingering weight, and the consistency is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and it's kind of got a bit of a halo. I'm not sure if you can see that, but yeah, a bit of fluff, but so soft. So I got 2 just to try out. I'm not sure if I'll just do some kind of swatch. I might make some more sheep, you never know. But I thought I'd get 2 just to try out. So this is the Marble Heather, which is a grey, and then I thought I'd just try the Marble, which is kind of a barber pole white and grey, which I think will look really lovely. So those are ones that I'm going to try. I might do a little review actually of what I think of these once I've knit them up into something. Let me know in the comments if you think you would like me to knit something specific out of those. I'd be interested to see what you guys would like to see me knit for a little review. And then lastly, the other thing that I bought was not 1 or 2 but 3 of the Shopper Wool Zauber balls. So this one really hits me for autumn. So this is the Schokollandensate ball, and it's a crazy Zauber ball. So I think it's 100 grams, 75% superwash wool and 25% polyamide. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a lovely kind of Oh, it's called Stonewash, so it's like a stonewashed blue with lots of light blue and dark blue in there. And then the last one is kind of blue but almost a tealy blue and lots of reds all in there. I really like that one. What I'm considering actually is probably pairing that one with one of these as a colourwork cowl, but I'll talk more about that in a sec. So that's all three of those, just to show you. Oh, so lovely. And these are a really great alternative for something like Spin Cycle yarns that I know is very pricey relative to the these ones. I think I looked at buying it in the UK and it was something like £35 for 50 grams. But I see it in so many patterns at the moment, especially Andrea Mowry's, and it does look beautiful. But this is a great alternative to that because you get the same kind of gradient but also barber pole effect when you knit it up. So it will hopefully look really lovely. And I am planning on knitting with these rather than weaving, whereas I have been weaving with the sport weight equivalent. So I'll show you what they end up as later. Very exciting. The next thing I want to talk about is just plans in general. So obviously I've spoken about what I want to do with my weaving at the moment, because to be honest, you end up with so many scarves when you're weaving that actually it's nice to try and make something else out of my woven fabric, which is why I thought bags would be a good idea. But I've seen lots and lots of other ideas online as well, so things like cushion covers, and there's a lady that I looked at the other day who does lampshades but covers them in woven fabric, which I think is a great idea. But in terms of knitting, the other plans that I have are, once I've finished my cardigan, I'm looking at knitting the Owls sweater by Kate Davies, and I'll put a picture of that there. But it's quite a commonly knit item. However, I promised 2 years ago that I would knit this owl jumper for my best friend, and it's taken me a really long time to find yarn to use because I fell in love with a specific colour that she had chosen as well. And it ended up that the dyer who was dyeing the yarn stopped. So we couldn't get the yarn anymore, which meant that I've been forever trying to find the right kind of colour to use that matches it closely enough. And I finally ended up with some Drops Nepal. So this is, let's have a look. It is knit on 5mm needles, 65% wool and 35% alpaca. I've got a whole pile of these, but I'm really hoping these are close enough to the kind of pinky gold that she wanted. So that's my plan after I finished my throwback. The next thing I'm looking at doing is the Lightwood cowl by Jennifer Steingass, and you'll see why I'm talking about that now, because I was thinking of using one of the Shopwell Wool Zalba balls as the colour. I'll put a picture just here as the contrast colour for the colour work. So I'm either thinking of doing a grey cowl with this one, with the lovely autumn colours, or possibly something like this. But I'm not sure if this is going to just get completely drowned out in the blue of the main colour. So I might knit a swatch and see. Always knit a swatch, guys. It really helps to see both what your gauge is like, whether you need to change needle sizes, or how something is going to look, especially for colour work and things like cables as well. You want to get an idea of how the fabric ends up as, if you see what I mean. So knit a swatch and wash it before you start the jumper or whatever you're making. Don't worry for some stuff though, like sheep, they don't need swatches. Yeah, so that's my plan. I bought this pattern a while ago because, again, I just loved it, but it is out of Spin Cycle yarns and it's way beyond my budget. Despite the fact that I buy a lot of yarn, there's a level that I will go to in terms of like the one skein. Because I do knit a lot, I don't want to just, I mean, I guess it would be really special, but it still makes me cringe a little bit to spend that much on one skein of wool. And the other thing that I'm looking at doing is knitting the boho style mosaic cardigan by Irene Lynn. So I mentioned that a couple of friends bought me some patterns for my birthday, and one of these was the mosaic cardigan, and I will put a picture just here. It is a really gorgeous like dressing gown style cardigan that, to be honest, I would wear every day, I think. In winter. It's quite a long cardigan, but it has a mosaic kind of colourwork section at the bottom, and it's plain further up. But I think I'm gonna do the opposite way round to the pattern picture, so have a blue as a main colour and then a grey and a white as the colourwork section. And after I've done my best friend's owl sweater, I'm hoping that I will have the time to knit that before the end of the year, but we'll see. Depends how long the owl sweater takes. And lastly, in terms of the kind of things that I want to do in weaving, I'd really like to try some more patterns. I'd really like to try some pick up stick work just to kind of make some floats and produce some different patternings. And also I recently bought an extra heddle kit so that I can produce a bit of a twill fabric, which I'm really excited to see how I can do that. So I think that's it in terms of making. Otherwise, I just want to talk a bit about plans for this podcast channel or this YouTube channel. And one of the things I'd really like to do is start doing little episodes every other week of something to kind of learn, or a bit of a tutorial or a bit of a kind of demonstration. And the reason I have all of this set up at the moment is that for next week I'm hoping to do something on colour combinations. So let me know if you're excited about that. It was a suggestion from a friend in my craft group, so I hope she'll be watching this and will be excited to see that. But basically I'm going to put together a little kind of class, kind of explanation about how I choose my colours for colour work or for other kind of 2 or more colour projects, because it's quite an interesting topic actually. But I'm hoping to do quite a few other things. So for example, talk a bit about mirror knitting in an episode, and I hope you'll absolutely love it in the long run. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can, so that you can see what else I'm going to be offering in future. And I really hope you have a lovely week, or a lovely couple of weeks. I will see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye.